Welcome to Rise and Thrive Women, journeying from surviving to thriving after abuse. We're your hosts, Susie and Heather, and we're so glad you're here. If you've experienced the heartache of toxic relationships, you know the feeling of being lost, broken, and unsure of where to turn next, and this podcast is for you.
We are here to inspire, educate, and empower women like you, no matter where you are on your healing journey. Together, we will challenge the misconceptions surrounding domestic abuse, explore practical solutions, and listen to incredible survivor stories that remind us all that there is a brighter, better future waiting for you. It's time to rise, thrive, and choose yourself. Let's begin this healing journey together.
Yay, let's do it. I'm so excited for today's topic. But before we jump in, we always like to just talk a little bit about our Rise and Thrive Women membership. So we wanted to just share a little bit about that because Heather and I have been working on that over the last several months and just recently launched it. So
yep, it's a private off social media space just for women healing from narcissistic abuse, whether you're still in it, figuring out how to leave, or rebuilding afterwards.
And when you are a member of Rise and Thrive Women, you get access to all of our past workshops we've done, plus upcoming workshops, live bi-monthly coaching, group coaching sessions, and a whole library of resources, training videos, various resources for no matter what stage of an abusive relationship you're in. If you're just kind of trying to figure out how to leave, how to make your exit, or if you're just out and trying to get your footing and figure out the path towards healing, there are resources in there for you. And you can try it for 7 days for free. So
yeah, and we actually have a session tonight, or a group session. It's a Q&A. It's open Q&A, or specific questions that you may have, or a specific topic you're interested in talking about. So if you are seeing this today on July 10th, go ahead and hop in there. It's risk-free. It's, like Susie said, 7 days free. And you will have the opportunity to get 2 of those bi-monthly sessions, right? The other one's this Saturday.
yeah.
Is that Susie? Yeah. So
or next Saturday, I think, or
maybe
next week.
So I know we have one tonight for sure.
Tonight, yep, tonight, and then a week from Saturday, I think.
Okay, so then, yeah, so that 7 days wouldn't cover next Saturdays, but you would absolutely be able to take advantage of the bi-monthly group tonight. The link is in the show notes on Susie's channel and on mine if you're seeing this on YouTube. If you're catching this on my Instagram channel, the link to that is in my bio. So go check that out. We'd love to have you there. In the meantime, we want to talk about something that has come up multiple times when I've been talking to friends and clients about intuition and not trusting themselves. And the comment is either, I don't feel like I have the discernment, or I feel like my intuition is off, or I don't have the best track record, so I don't really trust myself. And so I think that so many people are struggling with that same thing. And we want to address that today, because once we start probing on, or, you know, as a coach, when I start probing on what makes you feel like you can't trust yourself, or what makes you feel like you don't have intuition, and we hear things like, well, I stayed in that relationship for way too long, even though I ignored the red flags. And so it's been a whole lot of reframing mindsets around listening to the intuition. The intuition is there. It sounds like the issue is more so with self-gaslighting, or ignoring your intuition. And this happens a whole lot when you're dating. Like if you're getting back into the dating world and you feel like you're maybe getting close to someone, or you're maybe getting triggered by behaviors or even comments, things like that, and you're just kind of really confused on how to handle that. And so that's what we want to talk about today, is how to stop ignoring your gut and trust it, and embrace new strategies on calming your nervous system as you navigate listening to your intuition for the first time.
Yeah, it's such an important topic. And I echo the same thing you said, that I would say it's probably one of the top 3 things I hear people struggling with after coming out of abusive relationships, if not one of the top things. It's that fear of going down the same path again, and, you know, getting into another bad relationship and not trusting yourself to avoid that, moving forward. So I'm really glad we're talking about it today. So in this first part, we want to just talk about, what is discernment, and like what is kind of trusting your gut and what isn't. So I think a lot of times, discernment, intuition, and fear responses get confused. And they're not the same thing. But when you've experienced emotional abuse or narcissistic relationships, they feel almost indistinguishable. They feel like the same thing. So first of all, just to explain, what is discernment? It's a process that your body takes you through, your mind takes you through when something comes up. So it's not just a gut feeling. It's made up actually of 3 parts. First of all, it's noticing. So you notice what your body or intuition is signaling. Maybe it's a feeling in your body, discomfort, your stomach hurts, something like that. Your body is signaling you, and you notice that. The next part of discernment is processing that feeling. So kind of reflecting on the context and the meaning of that feeling. And then the third part is acting. So actually making a choice that is aligned with your values and your needs and what you think that your body is telling you. So that intuition is usually your alert that something is off. Your body's telling you that. But if you've been through trauma, especially abuse that involved gaslighting or emotional manipulation, your relationship with your intuition really gets scrambled. So that's another thing, like kind of you spoke to here at the beginning, that it becomes disrupted, I would say. So when you get that intuitive signal, instead of trusting that instinct, you immediately override it. And that's because most likely when you've experienced abuse, you've been conditioned to believe that your perceptions were wrong, or it's dangerous. It's not safe to act on those intuitions. So that's why, typically we'll brush that aside and kind of dismiss it. I was thinking of some examples just in conversations with clients. And one I thought of was, I had a client tell me that her partner made a cruel joke, and she immediately froze. And she thought to herself, okay, maybe I'm just being too sensitive again. Maybe this wasn't that big of a deal. But when we reflected on it, we found that freeze response she was having was actually her body trying to tell her that she should be protected because, it wasn't right. But because she didn't trust that signal and just dismissed it, she didn't speak up. She didn't voice her concern. She just froze. So that's a little bit about discernment. And if you're telling yourself, I don't have discernment, that's what we're wanting to challenge you with today, because it's most likely that you do have it. You've just been taught to doubt it, to minimize it, or just kind of dismiss it or, brush it aside. So.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the trap of self-gaslighting. So gaslighting is, when you self-gaslight, it's typically because it comes from past abuse. Not in all cases, but it comes from past abuse where you had to anticipate and adjust to somebody else's reactions before they turned manipulative, before they dismissed your concerns, before they became explosive, whatever their typical reaction was. And what happens when we're in relationships like that over time is we just anticipate it and adjust our own behaviors and our brains, the way they work. It goes back into that thinking cycle, right? So self-gaslighting is kind of when you override your gut feelings and you correct your concern with something like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's just me being triggered. They didn't mean it like that. Or even, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to come across as high maintenance. Just the sky's the limit. Insert your favorite,
right?
I guess reason.
Yeah.
And so what we want to talk about today is learning how to trust your gut and coming up with new strategies. strategies that are going to make you feel more secure in your relationship. For example, the example that Susie just used with her past client who said he made a really offensive joke. Yeah, she didn't say anything. In this case, like if I had a client that told me that, I would encourage them to speak up and say something. And it doesn't have to, depending on what it is, if it sounded cruel and it offended you, coming out and saying, I didn't like what you said, it made me feel uncomfortable about myself, I don't appreciate it, please don't make jokes like that. That's what I would encourage them to say. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And if someone leaves because of that, good riddance. Good riddance.
Right.
And honestly, when you start to communicate some of these triggers, we'll say that was a trigger, right? When you start to communicate with potential partners, seeing their reaction is going to be key. And so when you're approaching dating after abuse, it's so easy to fall back into the old habits of past relationships and making sure that you stay safe by avoiding any sort of reactions or, putting yourself on the eggshells. But being able to communicate your needs, being able to communicate any sort of trigger or uncomfortable feeling and watching their reaction is going to be part of building what I have been calling the discernment muscle. Because it's uncomfortable. Like people, it's not in our nature after, especially narcissistic abuse survivor, it's not in our nature to say, I have a problem with what you just said. It's uncomfortable. And so it is going to feel uncomfortable at first, but it's so rewarding in the end because, like I said, you get to see their reaction, and their reaction will either put you at ease to where you feel safe again, or throw a ton more red flags, letting you know very quickly, this relationship is not for me.
Totally. So, yes. That's such a good point. And that's something that I feel like this comes up. I have an in-person support group that I run where I live out in the western suburbs of Chicago. And this comes up so often. And what you said exactly is the advice I hear the ladies in my group giving each other and that I give too. Like when the question comes up, like, how do I know if I can trust this person?
Yeah.
It's not taking in all the things, the nice things they say when you first start dating, and they bring you flowers and they do all these grand gestures. No, it's like actually having these tough conversations and seeing how they respond, because their actions, in those tough moments are going to be the biggest indicator of who they are and whether or not you want to be with that person. So
sure.
Yeah. So such a good point. And I just wanted to say too, the people we're speaking to today are the people who are out of the abusive relationships and are exploring dating again. For the people that are in active abuse, whether or not it's safe to actually speak up and use your voice and tell the person you're with if you don't like something. And in a lot of cases, we acknowledge that might not be safe, but we still want you to try to shift that internal dialogue, if you can, to where, you remind yourself your feelings are valid and how you're feeling is valid rather than dismissing that away. So I wanted to just clarify that too. But
that was a great call out.
So let's talk a little bit about why abuse survivors fear their own signals happening in their own body. So we've touched on this a little bit already, but when you're in abuse and you come out of it, your body has almost become something that you don't trust. It's that long-lasting effect of emotional abuse, especially when it's been chronic. And what's underneath that is a lot of nervous system dysregulation. So your body's natural alert system, like those feelings you have, whether it's tightness in your chest or a pit in your stomach, or just that feeling of unease, can become really confusing or even terrifying. So instead of taking that information in as, these are my body's sensations that I need to listen to, we interpret them as danger. So your body has learned that feeling that Especially that discomfort when you have confrontation might get you punished or ignored or even attacked. So those signals become really, really uncomfortable and can feel really dangerous. So this is why a lot of women, when you're entering the dating world and something does come up that doesn't sit right with you, you might automatically have a freeze response. I hear from a lot of women that something happened and I just shut down, or I just couldn't find my words. I couldn't speak up in the moment. That's what a freeze response is. It's when it's like almost playing dead, to stay safe. And the thinking parts of your brain actually turn off and those more primal instincts kick in just to keep you safe. So that's why it can be hard sometimes to even address what's going on. Or you might fawn, which is like over accommodating and trying to manage someone's emotions to avoid conflict. So that's another response people sometimes have when they need to address something. So rather than wanting to address it, it's like, how can I fix this? How can I just like make this go away? So rebuilding your trust in your body means learning to pause and remind yourself that this sensation isn't a threat. I'm safe. I'm no longer in abuse. And my body is trying to tell me something. So that's what we encourage, I guess, as a first step you to do, is just take that information in, allow yourself to just sit with those feelings and try to listen to it. What is your body trying to tell you? Sometimes people feel like a tightness in their throat, and that could be your body telling you need to say something, but you're holding it back. Or again, like that pit in your stomach, just noticing those things and trying to just understand what your body is trying to tell you. So embracing those signals, and looking at them from a lens of curiosity rather than fear is a good first step to take. That was a lot that I just said. But.
No, those were really good. As you were talking, for me, when I'm really uncomfortable, like I will start getting red. It's almost like a red rash from my neck down to here. Sometimes it breaks out on my arms, but you can see it. You can see it on my body when I am not comfortable. It's gotten a lot better, but every now and then I notice that sometimes even when we're live and we're talking about something, it will happen. And I don't know why, because I don't feel unsafe. Like I feel safe talking with you, Susie, but it's still something. It may be that we're talking about a subject that hits too close to home. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But that's what happens to me, is I feel, you can feel thermal changes in your body as well as the ones that Susie highlighted. And if you're like me, you may get all kinds of crazy discoloration on your neck, and also your body.
And if you're listening, we would love to hear what responses do you have? I know I personally, if there's like a confrontational situation, I definitely tend to fall into the freeze response, where I just feel tight. I kind of shut down, or I fawn sometimes too, just to try to make it go away. So it's just learning your responses, getting curious with it, and telling yourself it's valid, and trying to learn what your body's telling you, so you can act on it in a way that is genuine and true to yourself. So I've got a comment that just came in. Let's see here, from no reply. I had to escape my toxic older siblings and narc ex-husband. Getting anyone to stop and listen to what was going on without looking to place blame was the hardest problem. I had to document so much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You should join, at the very least, you should join our Rise and Thrive Facebook group. I'm assuming. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that was your experience, but I hope you're in a place now free from that, and you can start learning to things. And
and I didn't freeze, did I?
No.
I think you glitched for a second. Okay, good. Also, I was just going to say something. Oh, it's really common, especially if you've been in abuse for a really long time and you start to become very reactive. Like that's a thing, right? And so when you start to see professionals, or you start to become familiar with the family system after several years of abuse, of people who don't have the backstory, and they don't know like the state of mind you were in, previous to this relationship, and you become very reactive. And I'm not saying that you did, but it happens it happens all the time. And it's so fast, or most of the public is so fast to say it's both of their fault, or start to point fingers. Well, you could have done this differently, and you could have done that differently. And it's extremely invalidating when you're in emotional abuse, because you feel unheard, unseen, and you just want them to listen. So just so you know, it's common. What you've experienced, or what you are experiencing right now, is more common than you think.
Yeah.
Please feel free to share along as we dive further into this. But now we want to talk a little bit about building self-trust in real time. So when something feels off, what do you actually do? We've talked about this a little bit. Susie just said, take a simple pause, name strategy. So like, I noticed something didn't sit right just now. And saying, or welcoming the feeling, and you don't have to express yourself immediately after feeling that way. Sometimes it takes a little time to kind of digest what happened, and you can ask for a break, right? Like, especially if this is a partner.
Totally.
And just say, you know what, like I was going to say apologize, but don't apologize. In 2025, we're not apologizing. You know what? I need to take a minute. Something feels a little off. It's, I need to take a minute to kind of understand how I need to approach this. There's nothing wrong with that. The right person will give you your space. As a matter of fact, if I was talking to someone and they said that to me, that would be a major green flag. Like, okay,
right.
Someone who isn't going to fly off the handle and react out of, nowhere.
Right. Yeah. That's something I have to personally do, because I really struggle to form my thoughts when I'm triggered. And again, I know the science behind it now, where that prefrontal cortex actually does turn off when you're triggered. So I highly recommend taking a pause and gathering your thoughts. I think that's such a great thing to do.
Yes, 100%.
It's a healthy thing to do. So,
and then you can do an internal check-in. So once you've taken a pause, kind of try to figure out, was this fear? It is possible to be with someone and have past feelings come up that weren't necessarily their fault. I'm laughing because I know she's probably watching, but I had someone tell me that she was dating, and her the guy she was dating popped his wrist, and that alone, it sent her back. It made her remember the time that she was with her abusive ex, who did that all the time. And so, I mean, obviously something like that doesn't mean that you're with another abusive person. It means that you're likely experiencing some form of PTSD, right? And internally, like doing internal check-ins with yourself to say, okay, was this a trigger that just reminded me of the past? In that example, it was, or is this a trigger telling me that this person is not safe? So is this fear, or is this information, right? And sometimes information means this relationship isn't for me. And sometimes information just means, let's store this away and see, how the future goes, and whether or not everything adds up. It can be a few different things. And then, like I said, communication strategy is huge. How to express yourself, and ask clarifying questions in a way that honors your needs without assuming the worst. I actually wrote, there's a chapter in my book about dating and having a strategy before you go into the dating world, of thinking through kind of what your triggers are. You're not going to know them all up front, but kind of knowing what your triggers are, and setting an agreement or a plan with yourself on how you are going to handle communication when these triggers come up, right? Honor your needs. If they are not willing to meet your needs, then sometimes that just means that the relationship isn't right. And that's okay too. It doesn't always mean it's going to end that way, but these are just really embrace the trigger, embrace the fear, do the brave thing, and start talking to people. Because when you start going down this little hole, the healing hole, and communicating these things, you're going to receive more and more information to where you're not going to have these prolonged periods of time like waiting for the bottom to drop out. So those are my real-time rebuilding your self-trust, and taking a deep breath, because it is a wild ride.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good advice. Really good advice. So, okay, let's shift a little bit and talk about when to walk away without needing proof. And we wanted to talk a little bit about this because so many of us have been taught that we need evidence to justify leaving or taking a drastic action in our relationship, or even just setting a boundary or saying no, unless we have proof that, the person was in the wrong or it was abusive. We want to just empower everyone that your body's reaction, your nervous system reaction is enough. You don't need a smoking gun or to be able to check off, a list of toxic traits that are enough for you to walk away from a situation that feels unsafe, manipulative, or even just feels off, like you said. So that need to explain yourself or make a case, it often comes from a history of, again, not being believed or being gaslit into thinking that you're imagining things or you're overreacting. So we want to just empower everyone that, you're allowed to walk away from a dynamic that makes you feel small, confused, drained, or even just on edge without the need to justify that at all. So sometimes, it's not a glaring red flag. It's just maybe a subtle, incompatibility, or your values aren't aligned, or maybe you're picking up on some unhealthy relationship patterns that just don't sit right with you. That's enough. So if your body is telling you no, and maybe even your energy feels depleted, or you just feel unsettled when you're spending time with the person, that's enough. And that's your proof that relationship isn't right for you. So, just a little piece of advice there too. Cause I think coming out of these relationships, you feel like when you get into a new one, and ending a new relationship would have to be something really drastic again, because you've been through this turmoil and these really dramatic situations. But it could just be you're just generally not happy, not feeling 100% fulfilled, and not feeling like you're I'm going to drop the F-bomb. It's not a fuck yes relationship, then it's a no, and that's okay.
It's a hard pass.
Yeah, it's a hard pass because you've been through all this garbage and you deserve something that really makes you feel at peace and secure in your body and not have, your body's nervous system telling you it's not right. So.
Yeah, there's something this is a little off. It's related, a little off topic, but I want to talk about it because I just had somebody talk to me about this the other day, which is anxious attachment styles. So a lot of people get anxious when texting dials down, or you feel their behavior shift, or the communication isn't as frequent. One of the things that I was talking to her about was whether or not they were still interested. And I was asking her, have you done what you needed to do to vet out this person? Because what a lot of people do is they get so hung up on the fear of rejection and the anxiety that comes behind rejection that we don't consider our needs and understanding whether or not that person is right for us. So it's really important to kind of understand your attachment styles, or at least have some knowledge of your attachment style when you start dating, because you'll notice that anxious attachment a lot of times will come up a whole lot of right alongside the gaslighting, the self-gaslighting. And it's because we would rather shove all of our needs aside and down and not say anything because we are so fearful that we're going to get rejected for it. And that's anxious attachment. So I just wanted to throw that in there while we were talking about that, because I think it plays a role. So when you are making the choice to walk away or deciding to communicate some of these triggers, just make sure that you've done the work on your end, and whether or not you even like this person as a person or want to be with them. Sometimes we just get so ingrained in the dating apps that we feel great that someone picked us, that we don't even take the time to figure out if we like them.
Totally.
That may sound very basic, but it happens. I've suffered from that, so don't judge me.
It's a good reminder. I have too. Yeah.
Back on topic, let's talk about the definition of safety and trust. So safety, we have to shift the mindset when we are building the discernment muscle. And so safety isn't about how much can I tolerate, right? That's an old mindset that we built or that we created to survive past abuse. And so it's not about how much I can tolerate anymore. It's about how quickly can I trust myself to respond. So instead of building up your how much shit can I tolerate and stuff down, we're going to say, we're going to keep that barrel, we're going to keep the toleration barrel empty. And we're going to bring up all of the things, and we're going to, my chair is messing up. We're going to bring up all of the things that we need to vet out now so that we aren't, having the same conversation and why the hell didn't I listen to my gut 10 years from now? So how quickly can you trust yourself to respond? And sometimes when you're first doing this, it could be a week, it could be a day, it could be a month, who knows? But once you start getting used to doing it, like communicating and coping and picking up healthier habits on dealing with them, your new ways of thinking, that builds new neural pathways, not to get all nerdy in here, but it builds new neural pathways. It builds new habits. You're building your skill set on how to handle these things going forward. And so what happens is, hopefully over a period of time after you've done it, you will learn to have you will have learned to trust yourself to be able to respond instantly. And your window of tolerance may grow a little bit, right? And it'll slowly expand over time. And so,
and I want to say on top of that, I like how you put it a little while back about like exercising your muscle, like exercising this speaking up muscle, this confrontation, not that it has to be like a high conflict confrontation, but like exercising that ability to speak up for your needs. It doesn't have to be within this new relationship. You could exercise that in a number of ways. And it could be as simple as out in public, at a restaurant, or at the grocery store. Maybe at a restaurant, your meal comes to you and it's cold, and normally you wouldn't have spoken up because, again, you've learned to stuff everything down. But taking that opportunity to say, hey, I'm not quite happy with this meal. Can you get me another one? Like you can practice this in other ways too.
I vote that you practice on Thanksgiving with all your family.
Yeah. Should we rerun this episode in the fall?
Yeah. Let's test this out on Thanksgiving and Christmas and see how this works out. Okay, so you're not broken. You were just conditioned to disconnect from your inner truth, right? And it's so hard. But just know that it's uncomfortable. You're not alone in the discomfort. And even though people don't voice it a lot, Susie and I have been doing this long enough and have talked to enough people and have, connections with therapists and mental health professionals. And we can tell you that everyone experiences this. You're not alone. You're not too much. You're not broken. You just have to learn how to reconnect to yourself. And the more you practice tuning in and honoring all those small instincts, the louder and clearer your discernment will become, or the stronger that muscle will build.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you hit your mid-40s and you just run out of F's to give too. That helps. I'm finding that in my middle age.
I know, right? Well, I'm not 45. I'm about to be 40.
Yeah.
Next. Oh my God, I'm gonna be 40 next week. It's
Oh,
there.
yeah,
It's happening. The
Yeah.
transition is happening.
No, you can do it even if you're younger. It's all good. So no, I love that. Great. Well, did you have any questions come in from your end?
No, like my Instagram is freezing all the time.
Oh,
I think that
not fun.
it may be my version of StreamYard. I have no idea. We'll have to figure it out because we used to get so much engagement over there.
Yeah, I did get one other message from no reply, just saying thank you. Still getting out of the enmeshment, and financial abuse has been a big struggle, but things are slowly getting better. I love your live chat. Thank you. Oh, thank you for joining us today and for sharing that. And
where is no reply?
Over on YouTube.
Is she on your channel?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
I don't think I can
I'm
tell.
curious. I'm just wondering if we have local. I want to meet local people. I'm wondering if she's from Northport or Port Charlotte.
Yeah, if you're still on, let us know what area you're in if you'd like to. But we're happy to have you here, and you're gonna get there. So just keep on keeping on, one foot in front of the other. You got this. All right. Well, should we go ahead and close out for the day?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a reminder again on our membership, these are the types of things that we talk about within our community, and we would love to have you over there. So check out the link that's available in this episode or in our bios on our different social media platforms.
So join our Rise and Thrive membership for live coaching, healing workshops, community support for women like you. The first 10 to join today get a free one-on-one session with me or Susie. So take advantage of that. Again, you get the 7-day free trial and a free one-on-one session with Susie and I. So thank you all for joining us on this episode of Rise and Thrive Women. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to take charge of your healing journey. Whether it's a new perspective, renewed hope, or the courage to move forward, it is something worth celebrating.
And remember, your story is still unfolding and your past doesn't define you. Within you lies strength, power, and limitless potential. Embrace it. Trust and follow your intuition with courage. Be bold, be brave, and always trust yourself. Until we meet again, take care, rise above, and thrive. You've got this. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.